Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. All right, it's Saturday night. We haven't done a Saturday evening live program for quite a number of weeks. All right, it's good to see you. Some of you told me that you really liked the video from yesterday. It's about the young man, the young Chinese man who smuggled himself back into the U.S. What he said in the interview, he said that China is becoming like North Korea, and it's very true. Under Xi Jinping's leadership, China has been moving to the left and returning to Maoist era. Some people worry that the CCP will launch another cultural revolution, and others don't believe so. They argue that China won't return to the crazy time of Cultural Revolution after decades of economic reforms. But unfortunately, things have changed so much in 2023 that I think Cultural Revolution 2.1 is already here. A planned economy or leftists' policies alone don't constitute a cultural revolution. By definition, a cultural revolution requires a cultural or ideological war. And that's happening now. It's marked by three attributes: personal worship of the leader, and then an ideological mass movement, and then three, turning people against people. And I think we just witnessed last week um, the episode where people start to turn against each other irrationally. Uh, China has met all three requirements now. And in preparation for today's program, I came across a lot of reports and information that made me laugh and cry. It's a little unusual from that perspective. So I stay with me until the end. I think I saved the best for the last. You won't be disappointed. So let's first talk about the three attributes, right? Let's first talk about personal worship. Do you know that many Chinese museums have been displaying items used or even visited by Xi Jinping as their part of their permanent collections? Here we go. So it's almost similar to the personal worship Mao enjoyed during the Cultural Revolution 1.0. Anything Mao touches or touched became pieces of revolutionary relics. So here you see on the left a ladle, or whatever you call that Xi Jinping used to scoop rice cake. That's what the plaque says. I can't tell which museum it is, but on the right, this is from the Gutian Conference Museum, and this is the dinner set that Xi Jinping used when he was hosting a military conference there. And we have more. We have towel and a plate he used on the left, and the chair he sat on during the G20 summit in 2016. And the one, yeah, and oh, these are actually from museums. The Jiaotong University Museum on the left shows a magnifier glass. I can't really tell. It's on maybe the glass. What's shining, the reflective part, is the magnifying glass, and on the right is a microphone, a wireless microphone he used. And somebody put the word "sacred item" on the picture. So that's probably post edited, not part of the original display. And here, this is like the two signs. They're from two different places, but these are Xi Jinping Party Secretary General Xi's footprint. That's where he stood. Yeah, it's just quite unbelievable. And see, people are taking pictures. People, seriously, the man on the left and the man on the right are taking pictures of his footprint. And then the sign in on the left is in the white, and the one on the in the red. They both say the same thing: Party Secretary General Xi's footprint. And this, you know what it is? um, if you can read Chinese, you can figure it out because the poster, tells what it is. It's a toilet. Um, it's a toilet that Chairman Xi didn't use, saw. This is what the poster said. It says, this is the toilet Chairman Xi saw, and it's all dressed up in this red decorative velvet or whatever you call that, silk, that protects the the toilet. I'm sorry. That's what I said. I laughed. I really laughed when I saw this picture. And here's the original picture when he saw the toilet. um, it was probably some kind of project that he visited, and he saw this toilet, and they talked about it, and then after he left, they enshrined this toilet. It's just too funny. Sorry, in this fashion, with a poster, with actually the poster on the left, the banner. The words says, well, I translated for you. All right, so oh, that's I'm sorry, I just have to laugh. I think this is just there might be more pictures on the internet you could find, but I think these are very representative, shall we say. They're just unbelievable. So that's the personal worship part. And now during the Cultural Revolution, Mao was idolized as a semi-god, right? Now it seems that the same approach is being used on Xi Jinping, but it just looked odd. It looked ridiculous. If the same pictures appeared during Cultural Revolution, people wouldn't be laughing, but now people are laughing because people can't believe that that's what's being done. So therefore, there's a possibility that the intention behind these overzealous approach, right, is actually meant to ridicule Xi Jinping. And Chinese came up with an expression. It's called 低级红,高级黑. So I translate it as the vulgar red and the sophisticated black. The red in vulgar red means loyalty or political correctness. So vulgar red refers to the intentional simplification or the vulgarization of a CCP policy and the use of exaggerated or even extreme attitudes to express political correctness. And the sophisticated black refers to a carefully planned but unnoticeable attack to smear a leader or a policy by explicitly praising but actually denigrating him. So that's the Chinese expression. And so all of the extreme ways of praising Xi Jinping and comparing him to Mao may achieve the effect of insulting him because people don't really like Cultural Revolution or Mao. And Xi Jinping certainly is aware of that. And that's why the central leadership recently warned lower ranking officials against these tactics. But it's hard because you can't tell, from the mixed bag. There are people who are doing that to insult him, and there are people who just blindly follow, his leftist direction. And they thought that the more extreme it is, the better it is, because they have already been programmed to think like that. So they're unable to that's the only way they know to show loyalty. So it's really hard to tell which one is which. But so that's the personal worship. Now let's talk about ideological warfare or the ideological mass movement. The second similarity to Cultural Revolution is that Beijing has launched a mass ideological movement to re-educate everyone politically. A nationwide exhausting, I call that exhausting, I'll explain why. Exhausting political study campaign has started. About a month ago, on April 10th, the CCP Central Leadership issued a notice requiring Chinese people to study the newly published Xi Jinping's Selected Works, Volume 1 and Volume 2. It asked that the Xi Jinping thoughts to enter, this is quote from the order, to say Xi Jinping thoughts should enter curriculums, enter classrooms, and enter people's mind in a multidimensional, comprehensive approach through various formats. Okay, so I found somebody posted this program, this study program. It's really tiny. It's unclear. It's in Chinese about in detail how they're. I think it's a research or academic institution, how they're going to carry out this study program. So I translated it for you. Let me do this. Yeah. So this is their study curriculum. Okay. So it's spelled out that all staff will have to study 18 chapters of this book called Xi Jinping's New Era Chinese Style Socialist Thought Education. It's very long. And then so that's everyone. And then if you hold the title of assistant researcher or higher, then you also need to read 147 articles from the Xi Jinping's Selected Writing, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And everyone needs to study the 20th Party Congress work report. And if you're party members, then you also need to read the party constitution. So that's their curriculum. It's a lot. And then this is their schedule. Sorry, it's a little small. Maybe I can make this bigger. So this is their schedule. So week May, they didn't include the first week of May because that's holiday, right? They have the May break. So first week of May, 8th to 12th, they study chapter 3 to 7. And then, they study the remainder of the chapters. And then the last 3 days of May, they study chapter 18 and the other study materials to be determined. And they have homework. Homework is daily study note. They need to write a daily study notes. That's two-sided. How do I describe this? They need to write on an A4 paper their study notes, and it's both sides. They didn't say how many lines. Like here we have double space, single space, or how many word. They just say you need to write on both. It's a two-sided sheet of notes, and then this is their study schedule. So for assistant researchers and above, yeah, so they need to study the basic requirements for all. Oh, yeah, already. Sorry, so for researchers and above, they have more requirements. So they have the basic requirements, the 18 chapters, and then they need to read at least 8 articles from Xi Jinping's writings, Volume 1 and 2, a day. 8 articles a day, in addition to reading all those chapters. Okay. And then they need to do more homework than the basic requirement of all the staff. And then if you're a party member, so if you're a party member and assistant researcher and above, you need to do all of the above. Plus, you need to go to a group study at 1 p.m. every Friday. Okay, so that's their that's why I say it's an exhausting, a frantic political study. I mean, how much time do you have? I mean, people basically just can't work if you. And and it also says that I have another page. I didn't have that line. It says that requirements. Okay. Study notes must be submitted before 1 p.m. every Friday afternoon to the respective party committees. Before the end of the day, the various party committees should Sorry. The various party committees should submit homework collection status to the general party. Um, sorry, somebody's calling me. I don't know how to shut this thing off. Oh, sorry. Whew. Um, before the end of the day, the various committees must submit homework collection status to the general party committee. So everyone has to turn in their homework by 1 o'clock Friday afternoon to their respective party committee. And then they need to consolidate the homework and turn it to the general party committee. And every party member must attend group study. If you must ask for absence, please submit your request at least a day before. All staff members who are traveling or are taking time off must submit pictures of their homework before the deadline. Um, and people who fail to submit homework or do not submit homework according to good standard will have to have their performance score reduced. So judging by the pictures, Xi Jinping's books are quite thick. I wonder if people will have any time left to do their job, right? So I don't know if you ever had the chance to understand um, the extensiveness of the CCP's political study. So those of us who came from China understand, what political study means. But it just shows you how extensive and exhausting it can be, and you can't even fake it because they ask you to submit homework. Um, so yeah, and then if you don't do your homework seriously, and it could affect your performance, which means that your bonus or your pay could be affected. So that's really the ideological warfare. Now let's talk about turning people against. Oh, and then you have all these celebrities. Now these are pictures that the media reported. So this guy is the president of the museum, the Palace Museum. Here you have a media report or some kind of a publicity report showing him holding a book, holding a Xi Jinping's book in his hand. And then you have a famous, I think, a TV personality um, is doing the same thing. And then you have this movie star. This is a pop singer who actually this thing says that invite you uh, to read Xi Jinping's book with him. And the book talks about how to meet people's expectation around the people around the world, meet the expectation of people around the world for a better life. And so this movie star obviously is hosting programs to invite his fans to read the book with him. Um, it's quite ridiculous. Anyways, and then you have this is a comedian. He's a famous comedian, but he's more of a government sanctioned comedian, holding a book, Xi Jinping's book in his hand. So all these pictures are part of the publicity, the campaign nationwide that is part of that political study campaign. So now let's talk about turning people against people. You probably have heard by now about um, an incident, a Chinese stand-up comedian talking about his two dogs at a performance. And he used an expression that Xi Jinping used when inspecting the PLA. So on August 1st, 2017, when Xi Jinping inspected the PLA on the 90th anniversary of the PLA's establishment, so I lost the first half of the quotation mark. So basically Xi Jinping said, follow the party, forge exemplary conduct, and fight to win. That's what he said when he inspected his troops on that day in 2017. So last Saturday, May 13th, Li Haoshi, this young comedian on the left, used the line when he described his two dogs chasing squirrels. And he said the two dogs reminded him of the words forge exemplary conduct, fight to win. However, one of his audience members posted on social media and called his use of the line inappropriate as it's insulting to the Chinese PLA. So here's the post by the audience member and said that basically he found it inappropriate. So this started a political storm. The comedy company or the club was fined over $2 million. The comedian's contract was terminated. He's arrested and investigated. Some people believe that he will even be sentenced. A woman in South China, in other parts of China, questioned this overreaction by simply asking the question, aren't all the PLA brothers, brothers is a Chinese word sometimes when we refer to men or young men. And she said, aren't all the PLA brothers? And he didn't say dog brothers. She used a cute doggy emoji, all right, to replace the word dog because she doesn't want to say the word dog. So she said, aren't all the PLA brothers cute dog emoji brothers? And that got her into trouble. And she's also detained for investigation. Now, let me talk about stand-up comedy, comedy, sorry, comedy. Talking about CCP comedy. Stand-up comedy originated in the United States, and then the clubs started in China's biggest cities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen. They started about 10 years ago and didn't become popular until 2017 when the art form got on TV. It doesn't have a mass appeal, and it attracts mostly the well-educated urbanites who understand humor, who also have the time and money to enjoy humor. Because for the people who work at the bottom of the social strata, who are struggling for their basic survival, humor is a luxury. So here's a comedy club called Dan Li Ren, and here's the comedy club that hosted that comedian who got into trouble. What do you notice? English words and expressions, right? So both clubs have strong connections to Western culture. They use English expressions in their branding, both of them, right? And that's certainly a no-no. And that make them the target of attack during an ideological war. The comedian who used that line, who mentioned the Xi Jinping's words, who was detained, has his English name House because his Chinese name is Hao Shi, and he just adopted the English name House. So they have a very Western appeal, and that's problematic right now. Also, these clubs are very profitable. They don't have a lot of costs. Think about it. Their cost is venue, and their venues aren't big. They're not like thousands of person venue. They're like smaller auditoriums and smaller theaters with probably hundreds of people. So it's inexpensive. So their cost is venue and artists. But they can make a lot of money because what they deliver is something Chinese people can't get in their life: laugh and a happy time. Their success, however, makes some state-sanctioned artists, like that guy I showed you, the guy that held a Xi Jinping book in his hand, make them very jealous, right? So those pro-CCP comedians can't make the money that these comedy clubs can. So they're very jealous. And also, their success upsets some CCP officials who don't want to see um, a Western art form making Chinese people laugh in China. So the crackdown on the comedy clubs is inevitable because it's an ideological war. So it's not surprising that People's Daily and the Xinhua News Agency got involved in a heavy handed attack um, against a joke about two dogs chasing squirrels. And a lot of Chinese people joined the fight against Western ideology. People say not because they identify themselves with the ideology, it's purely their chance to vent their anger. And this is very, people are so upset over their life in the past 3 years that they just seize any opportunity to vent their anger. And so some of them even demanded, so they joined the official media's wagon and demanded all the live audiences in the theater to be investigated. So not just the comedy club and then the artists, but everyone who sat there. They demanded those people also to be investigated. And they want everyone who laughed over that joke to be punished. So it's like the Cultural Revolution in which people ruthlessly attack each other, right? Now, people don't just attack the artist and the club and then the audience. They also attack the men who turned him in. They digged information on him and find out who he is, sorry. So this is the guy who wrote that post that complained about his joke, right? So this is the man who started this entire quote unquote controversy. And the Chinese netizens are not forgiving. And they attack the man. Um, uh, oh, by the way, this guy has his own wiki page now. Here it is. Li Tianfu. Yeah, so he studied in UK for a year. He's now a producer, a TV producer, a news producer working at CGTN, so the state English English network, right? The official state English network. So yeah, so he works and he's award winning. He attended several major events. Excuse me, and seems like a award winning news producer. He now has his own wiki page, but people don't like him either. I think a lot of the people who don't like him are supporters, are sympathetic to the artists, but they can't say it, they can't express it that way because they could get themselves into trouble. So what they said is they reported this guy to the authorities, and they complained. They said this guy is guilty of defamation. Why? Why are they upset with him? Because they said, look, although the comedian should be held responsible for his mistake, for his bad joke, but his impact is small due to the limited number of live audiences he had. But the person who brought it online and exposed it to hundreds of millions of people, including international media. By the way, many Western media reported this. They call this the joke that cost $2 million. And so these Chinese are saying, this guy who brought it online and exposed it to the world, put it in front of the world, and now the whole world is aware of the connection between the PLA and dogs. So they're upset because this guy is the one who caused the great harm to the PLA. And so people went relentless on him. And so they asked, did he laugh at the joke? If he did, then he should not be forgiven. You ask me, what is cultural revolution? This is cultural revolution. When people attack each other with no rhyme and reason, that's what Mao did during the Cultural Revolution. And Chinese are using this to vent their anger, any type of anger, at anyone and anything, and it can be destructive. So some people are now saying this movie, it's called Wolf Warrior 2. They said this movie is offensive offensive because it's defaming to the Chinese PLA. This movie is a Chinese blockbuster movie with the tagline, "Those who violates China, though far away, will be punished." It's a pro CCP patriotic movie. It's a movie basically endorsed by the regime. And it's an action movie about PLA soldiers countering Western influences and saved Africans, out of a crisis. So the angry Chinese are arguing that calling the PLA wolf is worse than calling them dog. They say that wolf and dog belong to the same species, but wolf is worse because it's more ferocious than dogs. So they demand the authorities to penalize the famed star and director of the movie. He's here, and this is the patriotic movie, and give him a big fine. So they said, no more wolf warrior for us. Now, companies are also reacting to this kind of public opinion war frantically. Yesterday, the comedy club that hosted the House, the comedian by the name of House, issued an announcement that they are recruiting a director of party affairs, not public affairs, party affairs. And then the job is posted online, and then it immediately caused a wide public debate. The position requires the candidate to be a CCP member with a strong political awareness and a good understanding of geopolitics. However, I think because the post got so much viral attention, by 10:30 a.m., the company removed the job post. I think the company is so nervous now because any public attention is bad right now. So it withdrew that job post. And it doesn't stop there. This kind of frenzy also affected state media. NATO's general secretary announced a few days ago about not seeking a re-election, and CCTV's financial channel published a news report about it with this headline. It says, "Confirmed, after serving his term, or terms, maybe it should be terms, he won't seek another extension." The wording here is problematic. It sounds very much like a satirical attack on Xi Jinping. Everybody in China knows Xi Jinping changed the constitution and gave himself a third term. So once this was published, CCTV's financial channel removed it hurriedly, and the article is now deleted. But the same report by other media outlets that used a different title stayed. So this title was okay because, it gave the name. It doesn't make any reference to Xi Jinping. So you see how you could feel the sentiment, the frenzy, that's why I said the Cultural Revolution has already returned. You see all three criteria, personal worship, the ideological war, and then people attacking each other, baselessly, Now, that doesn't mean that everyone has lost their senses. I think there are many Chinese who are very rational, like the young man that I featured yesterday in my video. There are many Chinese who sees everything very clearly. They just cannot say anything. So next, I want to show you the video that brought tears to me this morning when I prepared it. This video went viral in China after this $2 million joke became crisis. Let me come back. And this video isn't new. I think it has been out for a while. It went viral before, but it went just crazy this past day or so. And I asked my editor. My editor did a great job by putting on a different music, because I think that whatever the music they use on the social media didn't really reflect the mood. So we gave it a different music, and the music came from a Taiwanese cellist who 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 plays beautifully. And so I want to thank him for allowing me to use his music. I also want to thank my editor for doing the great job. It's a 1 minute video. It's so short, but it's so powerful. So here, I'll play it for you. So I hope you can hear the audio. Yeah. Okay, it's quite powerful, isn't it? I think it's powerful because it spoke for the hundreds of millions of Chinese whose voice cannot be heard. It expressed their reality as well as their struggle, despair, and hopelessness without saying a word. Their feelings are a form of energy buried in this performance, and that's why it's powerful. Um, I have not seen a 1 minute performance that's so touching. So yeah, so that's what I said. This topic made me laugh and made me cry. So here we go. All right. So let me see if people have questions for me. Let me go through the super chat questions from Pablo Skates. Have you heard about the digital Hong Kong dollar? Do you think the CCP might use this opportunity to steal or control their money like they will on the mainland? I have not heard about the digital Hong Kong dollar. I have not heard about it. So it's the first time I heard it, but I'll keep an eye on that. Um, can you give my cat a shout out? He's an orange tabby named Jerry. He's a very good boy. Okay, well, hello, hello, Jerry. I made a short about cats leaving China. Did you guys see that? I said that the Chinese are not, not just Chinese people are leaving China. Chinese cats are trying to be smuggled into this country. I made the video, the short last week. So hi, Jerry. Thank you for the donation. From Dolores, thank you. Do you think she's pushing this or someone else? Is this a sincere return to the Cultural Revolution or a way to get rid of opposing factions? Um, I think so. People are saying that the person who's carrying out this extreme leftist practice or policies uh, is the person Cai Qi, the second most powerful person within the CCP, even though he ranks number 5 in the Politburo, but because he heads the general CCP's central office, he controls the Central Security Bureau. I made a video about that as well. He heads the secretariat of the office. What do you call it? The office of the secretariat, central secretariat of yeah. So so all these positions make him very powerful. Oh, he also is in charge of propaganda. So so people say that judging from the reaction, for this joke, this $2 million joke, uh, it shows that somebody at the Politburo Standing Committee level is involved. May not be Xi Jinping himself, but it's most likely the person in charge of propaganda is involved, and that's Cai Qi. Yeah, the person, the second ranking. I mean, the person who's second most powerful, but fifth ranking. Okay, let me see. From Quail. Oh, okay, thank you. Um, Travel with love. Thank you. All right, let me see. From Frosty Flake. I like your Chinese cat escape short. Yeah, I really enjoy that. I think the two cats are so cute, aren't they? Yeah. Um, all right, from Mike. Was there a recent ban on foreign musicians' performance in Beijing? Another article stated a police officer must be on stage if there's a foreigner. Yes, there are two. Immediately after this joke incident, a Japanese group, a Japanese monk musician, canceled his performance on May the 17th. And then also a three-piece band from Taiwan canceled their performance on the 20th. So May 20th. Those two foreign performing arts groups were canceled in China. I think there will be more. From Jeff Ramos, like during Mao, millions died. Nobody died. Nobody did anything. What COVID more died? Chinese common people are getting walls like the videos. Um, I'm not quite sure exactly what the question is. I think you're asking. Nobody did anything. What COVID did. 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 . 。 。 . 。 。 . 。 。 . 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 . 。 。 . 。 . I think the video just illustrates how the wall the CCP puts up, like the firewall, right? And all the censorship, all the control is like making the Chinese people's lives so their living space, their freedom is getting smaller and smaller. The walls are closing in on them. That's what that performance signifies. That's how Chinese feel like when they when living inside China. I'm not quite getting the question. So maybe you can try to ask me the questions again. I may be able to answer you. Jenna Bird Burge Vergevin, your videos are super informative. Thank you for your insights and explanations. Thank you, Jenna. All right. Let me see. Um, okay. Okay. If you have questions for me, put my name in the front so I know it's addressed to me. From Truth Hopeful Seeker. Are the Chinese people buying properties in the US like farmland, etc.? By way yourself videos are well done as this platform also. God bless you and your family. Thank you. Are Chinese buying properties in the US? If they could find their ways to come here and if they can send their monies here, they'd love to. I know there are projects, designed for Chinese. The projects, real estate projects developed by Chinese for the Chinese, but they have a hard time getting their money out of China. Um, yeah. Um, Let me see. Sorry, I am just looking at the questions from Alan Mandel. You covered economics, how to finance the country in view of Taiwan. South China Sea is expensive and funding for African and Latin America. Are you asking how does China finance its expansion or its ambitions regarding Taiwan, South China Seas, and African and Latin America? Um, if that's the question, then it, Chinese government have access to not only its resources but also a lot of the private resources. Right? It could embezzle money from the private sector. It can force Jack Ma to donate money to the government. It can, I think about all the debt the local government owes, right? So those are money that common people have saved in their saving, in their for their retirement in saving, but they're probably not going to get their money back. Um, so the Chinese government have access to much more resources than than their foreign counterparts because of the political system. Yeah. And that's why it's able to finance a lot of things. 121 Mark. Lei, hi, what's your thoughts as the Belt and Road initiatives on the African continent? Haven't we seen just reports coming out recently in the last week about more countries are in debt as a result of Belt and Road? Um, but I think more countries are going to Africa to compete with China. I think the United States is going there. Japan is also going there. Um, I think that those are a good sign. So, what do I think about I made two videos about China's presence in Africa and Africans' reaction to that. I made them a while ago, maybe last year, early last year. You can check them out. Um, yeah. Okay. From that functopus, how much of how much of our political infrastructure is compromised by the CCP? How bad do you think it actually is? How much of our political infrastructure is compromised by the CCP? How bad do you think it actually is? Um, it's definitely compromised. It's not in a good shape th- that it should be. It's not in the shape that it should be. But I can't really say how much is compromised. It's like I can't really give you a quantitative measure, like, oh, 20%, 30%. Um, I just saw an interview given by a well-known Chinese expert who wrote a book called the title is something like CCP. His claim is that the CCP will invade Taiwan in 2025. And he wrote a book about it. And he gave an interview to a Taiwanese TV program. And in it, he said that based on his sources in Beijing, and the CCP's order for the upcoming Taiwanese election is that they want to make sure that the Kuomintang wins because they think they have a better chance of influencing Kuomintang than the DPP in Taiwan. So once they make sure Kuomintang wins, and they don't have to rely on a war to take over the island, they can use other soft approach to gradually uh, nudge the Kuomintang people into agreeing to the terms that the CCP proposes. So that's their agenda for the Taiwanese election. And for the US election next year, what the CCP wants to see is they want to continue to see this very divided society, American society, um, that we saw in 2020. They think by dividing America or dividing American people, between the left and the right, or the progressive and then the conservative, they think they can, if they saw enough discord in American society, then that's the most advantageous um, to the CCP, and that's what they want to see. And so that's what this guy said, and I thought about it. I think it's a it's a point that need to be shared with you. That's all. I can't say it's what he said based on his sources, right? I can't verify it, but I just think maybe I need to relay that to you. Yeah. But are we able to? So the question is the existing political infrastructure in the United States strong enough um, to defend that kind of attack in the 2024 election? That will be tested. So I hope Americans um, don't you know don't don't get so caught up in our own idealistic view about politics and become the victims of the CCP's tactic. Um, we could have different political views, but we shouldn't fight each other like life and death, the way the CCP factions fight each other. We can debate, we can have different views, but we need to respect each other. That's what I believe. David Morgan, thank you. Thank you. Um, Blue 6, if Taiwan falls and then China invades the USA as their next target, if the US falls and China invades successfully in the USA, they will come after the Chinese who hate. I don't think, I mean, what you described is unlikely to happen because if China invades Taiwan, who's gonna fall, right? Who's gonna fall? More than likely, the CCP will fall. So I think the scenario you uh, described here is unlikely to happen. Um, from JJ, Lei, you are so brave. Thank you so much. Um, I think there are a lot of brave people out there. I don't consider myself particularly brave. You just speak what is true, what you hear. And everything I said here are already discussed by other brave Chinese um, elsewhere in other platforms. So they are the courageous one. You just don't have the chance to hear them. There are a lot of courageous Chinese out there. Um, because of the language barrier, you're not able to hear them. And I'm the one of the very few people who dedicate myself to be the messenger who want to bring their views, their insights, and what they have done for you. That's all. So I think they're the courageous one. For example, that young man who did that performance, I don't know who he is. I don't know, the fact that this video will go, I mean, has gone viral, will got him into trouble in China if he still lives in China. I mean, think about it. So he's the one who's really courageous, uh, right? Thank you. Mike, how does Xi Jinping thought differ from party philosophy of Hu Jintao era? Is ideological teaching in school different from past years? Ah, Xi Jinping thought. Do you really think his thoughts has any philosophical value? Do you think any communist ideology at this point have any have any philosophical values at all? I don't think so. So to study, I don't think there's any difference, you know, to study something that has no value and turn them. I think the CCP scholars, have a great ability, or CCP officials have great abilities to turn something that has no value into something that looks grand and great. When true wisdom is the opposite. True wisdom is turning is explaining things that's very complex in the simplest language. Is able, like true wisdom is to illustrate or analyze a complex situation in a very simple way that people can understand. Um, just like that performance, it's very simple. It's only 1.5 minutes, but it says so much. It described 1 billion people's feeling and their frustration, their anger. Right? It's so simple. It has no tool, no language. Yet it said so much, and that's wisdom. Whereas CCP's it doesn't have any wisdom because it creates a mountain out of nothing, out of fallacy. So and if you really look at if you go to meetings, if you go to CCP leaders meetings, like I witness people who come from mainland China, like who have very strong communist style of doing things. If you go to their meetings, you could sit there for hours listening to them talking without saying anything. But people who are very smart are able to tell you something in 5 minutes, and you get it. So yeah. So I don't think that they offer any value. Dan Frog Heat Dawn. Why is the PLA so insecure with the presence of LGBTQ within their ranks? I think the CCP leaders in general are not in favor of the LGBTQ communities. I don't think so. So I don't think it's the PLA officers or the soldiers at that level. I think it comes from the very top. Yeah. They don't want that in their PLA. They don't even want that in Chinese society, I think. Don't we see, didn't we see some LGBTQ website being banned recently? Or there, yeah. Um, so all right, that seems to be all the questions I get today. Um, yeah, well, that's all. Thank you very much for joining me. It's Saturday night or Sunday morning or Sunday. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I thank you for joining me. I hope this program make you laugh. It made me cry, but this is certainly one of those memorable programs I did. Thank you very much. Bye bye.